there is the standard version that you can download for free and use it. And there's the Pro version. The Pro version has additional features. So in the past, there were no Pro version. The idea is that everything that is really necessary is in the standard version, free. And as soon as it's something nice to have, not mandatory, then it goes to the Pro. So days after days, months after months, there will be more and more features in the Pro that you will not see in the standard version. Another thing to know is that you have two channels in terms of application. You have the standard one, and you have the beta channel. Basically, when there is new features, first it's put in the beta, and then in the standard when it's really robust. But by experience, you can, and probably most of you have already seen that, beta is already very robust. There are very, very few problems with the beta. So basically, it's preferable to use the beta because it has additional features. Sometimes the standard comes at the same level, but then there is new features in the beta, and then whenever they are happy, then they put the features in the standard one. Very important, there is a full manual online on the AirCube website that, of course, anybody can use because it's the same XCTrack, and XCTrack in AirCube, and XCTrack you can download and pay on your phone. It's exactly the same thing, so there's no difference. The difference are in the configurations, but basically it's exactly the same application. As long as it's online, it's very easy to find information because in Google you can just put some keywords like altitude statistics widget XCTrack, and you will directly land on the right page that explains the widget altitude statistics, right? So it's online, so it's referenced by Google, and it's very easy to get the information. So there are videos, FAQ, manual. Don't hesitate to look there because sometimes it's not necessarily obvious, so you can find the information there. So of course I've written the manual together with the XCTrack guys, so it was not possible to just understand the things by my own. So the very basic features that probably most of you know, but it's pretty nice to see it again. So first thing you need to know is that when you swipe down, you get the menu. Okay? If you turn left or right, you switch page, right? Then you have what we call the short click and the long click. In most of the widgets, there are different ways to use them. Either it's short click, you just click once. Sometimes some widgets require long click. So you need to put your finger on the widget for like 1 second, for example. If you take one widget that is called the vertical view, you can change the vertical view from the view that you have towards you or towards the waypoint. But then you need to keep your finger 1 second to switch from vertical view towards you, towards your direction, your bearing, or towards the waypoint. That's an example. For example, the people that use AirCube, the way it's configured by default is that if you want to turn waypoints to go to the next waypoint or the previous waypoint, there is a waypoint widget. You have to put your finger for more than 1 second, and then you switch waypoints. But for example, for the zoom, it's short click. So just one click, and I can zoom in or I can zoom out. Okay. Then the fourth one is swipe up. So swipe up means that you are going to enter a special mode. So swipe down menu, swipe up, special mode that is called toggle map mode. When you are in toggle map mode, then you can move the map behind. That's one thing. As soon as you have the center within a given area, it gives you additional information. So if you have airspace, for example, you can move the map so that the center, there's a cross in the center. When it's on a given airspace, it will show you some information, like, for example, the frequency of the airfield to call, to make a VHF call, for example. Another thing very interesting to know is that when you are in toggle map mode, so swipe up, I'm in toggle map mode, then I keep my finger for 1 second. And then I have what we call usually a contextual menu. You have different things that you can see where you have put your finger. For example, you can add a waypoint to a route. You can say, I want to navigate to that point. Or you can also have the list of all the airspace that were where you have put your finger. And then have specific information for each of these airspace. Okay? So basically, just a quick reminder, menu, switch page left, switch page right. And if I go up, then I'm in a toggle map mode. Okay? There are 4 different types of going from one to the other. All of these can also be done through buttons. Sometimes you do not wear gloves that are touchscreen, so you can configure the buttons so that you do basically the same. Here, for example, there are 5 buttons, and they are configured so that if I do a short click on the plus, I'm zooming in. Short click on the minus, I'm zooming out. If I do a long click on the right, I'm turning page right. Oh, sorry, minus. If I do a long click on the plus, it's going on the left. If I'm using the F1, F2, I can do turn point next if I do F2, or turn point previous if I do F1. But many different things that you can configure. With any phone, you always have the volume button, so you can configure the volume button, short click and long click, to do some specific actions. They are always short and long, okay? Which gives more possibilities.
How do you get off toggle mode?
Just with the back button. So if you click on the back button, or usually the triangle in Android, triangle is back, then you go off the toggle map mode. So these are examples of buttons that you can use so that you have all these features without having to directly do a touchscreen thing. Of course, the more buttons you have, more interface you can do. So now, if we go quickly through the menu, first is navigation. So the navigation there, you have 4 modes of navigation. Okay, so swipe down, menu, navigation. Then you have 4 modes. The first mode is go back to takeoff. Then you have triangle mode. You have XA route or competition. So they are the 4 modes. But we will come back later on the different modes. Then if you see afterwards, the second menu is track logs. So track logs is all your tracks, all your flights you've done. You have track logs. And when you go into the track logs, you see that when you click on one flight, you have 3 tabs. The statistic, you have the tabs with the route, the kilometers that you have done with 3 turn points, and you have the link to your XContest account. So most of the time, when when you are making a flight, live tracking, and when you do an automatic push on the server, it will be directly on your account, and you have the link to your account there. So it's very convenient. You don't even need to upload anymore. Everything is done automatically. So that's track log. Customize. That's the third menu that you have there. Customize. Customize button allows you to change everything you want to change there in the layout. You can reconfigure widgets. You can change the way they are layout. So you select the widget, then you configure each widget, and you can move, change the size, everything you want. That's the customize. The next one is preferences. That's where basically everything is configured, the preferences, where you will put your pilot name, your glider, the airspace configuration, the display, everything you want to configure will be in the preferences, and we will go further later in the preferences on the main things that you probably need to know. Preferences. Then, if you are replaying a track, then you will have another icon there that is IGC replay. But if you see now, I have no IGC replay because I'm not replaying a track. So this button that you can see there is a button that appears only when you are replaying a track. Okay? So to replay a track, you go to track logs, you open the track you want to replay, and you just click on replay, and then you will replay your track. And you have this button that will be displayed in the menu then. Next one is live tracking. So same as IGC replay, you will not see it unless you have activated the live tracking. So if you have not activated the live tracking in the preferences, you will not see this button there. But if you have activated it, then you have the live tracking button. It's not a live tracking configuration, that's the live tracking when you are really flying. We will come on that later. And the last one is to quit, the quit button. So in order to really quit the application, you need to do menu, quit, and then you really get out of the application. Because if you just push on the circle, regular circle, it doesn't quit, so it's still running. Okay, still running means that it can keep using some energy if you want to store it for a couple of days or something like that. Then it will take back empty. You know? So you have to really quit it correctly if you really want to quit the application. So navigation, just to come back on the navigation parts, you have these 4 types of navigation. Back to takeoff, triangle closing, waypoints, and competition tasks. And there is one more thing to know on the upper right, which is waypoints. That's where you will configure, let's say, your waypoints. That's where you will make sure that your waypoints are activated on the waypoint on the upper right. So there aren't many things to say about the 2 first, triangle closing and back to takeoff. This waypoint XC navigation is now also a kind of route. So like if you want to make a route with passing through different waypoints, very similar to competition task, but it's easier. So you just add some waypoints, and then you will have a route to follow. The difference is it's easy to configure, but as long as you have not configured a circle around, it will not switch automatically to the next one when you have reached it, more or less, because you never reached the exact point. So you will have to manually go to the next one with the widget, or the buttons if you have configured the button. But it's much more easy to configure. You just put one waypoint and then to that one, and then to that one. You can do it either on the map or through waypoints that are already there. And then you have your route. It's very, very easy to configure. But it will not switch automatically. While on the competition task navigation mode, the big difference is then you will define a circle, and as soon as you have entered into that circle, then of course it will switch automatically to the next one. There are other things to configure, like time, the start, the end of the task. But basically, if you just want to do XA and go through different waypoints, it's probably preferable to use competition task, so it will do automatic, and you don't need really to consider the time as long as you are after the start, which is by default noon. So when you click on waypoint, that's where you can configure different things related to waypoints. That's where you can either import the waypoint files or at least activate it. So when you download the waypoint, you put it in the waypoint XCTrack subfolder, and then you will see it there. And you will just need to click on it so that it will be activated, and then you will have your waypoints list in the list of waypoints. There you can also decide how to sort the waypoints. It's either the distance from you, so it will put the first waypoint, the closest waypoint, and the next one, and so on, or alphabetic order. It depends on what you are doing, basically. If you are searching for a waypoint, if you have a long list of waypoints, of course it's much more convenient if they are sorted by alphabetic order. Otherwise, it's quite difficult to find them. But if you are flying and if you want to find a waypoint somewhere, then of course it's more easy if it's sorted by distance, because you will see the first ones, the closest one, not the one that are very far away. Okay? So that's for the waypoints. Any question on waypoints? Quite basic. Okay? So track locks. When you have your tracks, you just click on the track locks you want to see. Then you have these 3 tabs. The first one is the statistic, the pilot name, your glider, your duration, distance, and so on. The second one is the route, the distance you have traveled. Either if you have made a triangle or flat triangle or just 3 waypoints, you will see your score there. And at the end, you have the X contest tab. This is a flight that has not been sent to X contest. As soon as it is sent, upload it, then you will have a link like this. You just see the link of the flight, and basically if you click on it, then it will open the browser, and you will see your flight with all the information, but directly on internet on your X contest account. And this is of course done automatically if you have activated the live tracking, and the automatic upload of your flight into your account. Then you don't need to upload it anymore afterwards. Those that are saying, yeah, but then if you have made some infringement, I'm not sure it's the right ID, you can always go back to your accounts and then disable it or hide it afterwards. Because if you don't want everybody to see it, you can go afterwards. It's much more convenient when it's automatic. So the second the third main menu is the customize. So customize, you have all your widgets. As long as you want to change something, you click first once on it. It will select the widget you want to configure. And then basically you can either reconfigure the widget, the size. You can move it. So if you put your finger in the middle and keep the finger on the screen, then you can move the widget. I don't know if you can see from the back. But so basically when I'm in customize, I select it. And then I can, like this, change where it is located. And if I put my finger on a corner, then I can change the size of the widget. Okay. Once I have selected it, if I click in the center, then I enter the configuration part of the widget. And then you have many things that you can configure depending on which widget we are talking about. Or if you have selected it, you can also click on configure, and then it's the same as clicking in the center. Okay, so I just put it back a little bit like it was. Second thing is that when you are in that customize menu, if you click on the upper left, then you can find a list of widgets that you can add to your layout. So there are many, many different widgets. Some are pro, so only those that have pro can get access to them, and others are just available for everyone. Preferences. Maybe any question on layout and customize or track logs? No? Everything is clear so far? So preferences. I will not pass through everything, but probably the main thing that are the most important thing. So that's where you put your pilot information. Be careful that login and password has to be the same as your XContest account, and always check that you are logged into XContest when you have put your password and pilot login, so that you make sure that you have made the right link. But sometimes we don't remember exactly the password. There's the password problem.
Always.
Yeah, it's very often occurring. Aircraft, you just put your glider. One thing in the aircraft that is important is the glide ratio and the trim speed. So these information are taken into account for the calculation. So make sure that everything there corresponds to basically what you think about your glider. Then let's go to live tracking. So live tracking, as long as you have an internet connection, you can be live tracked. It's a feature for security and for other reasons. And if you claim to XContest, then as soon as you have landed, it will be directly in the flights of XContest, which is pretty convenient. And also another feature for security. If we don't find you, you can find your flight, you can see where you have landed, and of course it's more easy to find you.
With live tracking, it's only to XCTrack?
Yes, it's only to XCTrack, but you can use on your phone other app that could be on other live tracking if you want, in parallel.
Oh, sorry, not related. Hey guys, if you're using a phone, can you turn it down, please? I'm really just a button on the side of your phone.
With the live tracking, obviously, if you fly to an area where there's no reception, live tracking stops.
It stops. It waits
Does
for the next reception. Yes.
Oh,
But and then it will save everything. So there will be no hole in the live track in your track. So as soon as you have back some network, then it will send the whole stuff, and the link will be made and with the whole stuff. In that live tracking menu, that's also where you can configure the quick messages. So with the live tracking, one thing that personally I use pretty much with my line friends, which are quite convenient, is the live tracking message. So as soon as you are in the live tracking menu, you click on the pilot, you click on the pre-configured messages, and it sends to the pilot with a message that will be displayed the time you want it to be displayed. Airspace. So Airspace is a very convenient feature because it has the airspace, but in many countries also it has the NOTAM analysis. So it's not just a fixed airspace information. It's also airspace that are sometimes activated, sometimes not. Because the NOTAM are analyzed, the information is integrated within the server, and it's communicating that information to XCTrack. So it has the schedule of the activation of the zones. So if a zone is activated at 2 p.m. and not before, you are flying at noon, it won't annoy you. It will not tell you, oh, be careful, there's an airspace, because it knows that it's at 4 p.m. When you do any airspace thing with an open air file, then you will never get that schedule. So you never know when it's available, when it's active or not. It's pretty convenient to know when it's exactly activated. And 15 minutes before it's activated, XCTrack will tell you, it will say, activated in 15 minutes, then 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and then it will activate. And it was gray in the past, and it will become red, and then you will know that the airspace is activated. So whenever you travel somewhere in a different country, to get the airspace, just activate the country, and it will download the airspace, so you do not have to bother with that.
How do you know which countries that automatic will work?
You will always see NOTAM on it. So if you see NOTAM, it means, like Australia, I see airspace and NOTAMs. That means that it will analyze the NOTAMs, and it knows when airspace is activated or not. There are some countries where NOTAM is not indicated. Then you have an airspace, but it's not interactively, dynamically changed based on the NOTAM analysis.
So with airspace, sometimes you can download a specific airspace for a competition that might have different boundaries or something set up.
Yeah.
If you activate that file as well as your automatic file, does one override the other, or do they appear together?
It will be added. So you can have the automatic airspace and then have another one, but that it will be added. So if you have an airspace that is normally not active based on the automatic thing, but then in the open air you have downloaded that airspace, then it will be active. It will become active because it doesn't know which one to take into account. If you have such file, then you have to put it in airspace subdirectory of XCTrack, that open air file, and then you can easily in the file, you can activate it. You just click, then you activate
So
it.
for instance, here we've got 8,500 feet till class E, so that for this comp we're allowed to go to 10,000. If you have the automatic one deactivated, at least then you won't get an alarm if you go to 9,000 feet. So you're saying with the competition's got an exception to go higher than the standard airspace.
You will not know it. It will tell you already at 9,000.
Yeah.
And then,
So you need
but
to
you
deactivate.
know,
You need to untick
yeah,
the normal airspace and only tick the competition airspace.
yeah, that's in the activate tab. In the activate tab, you will see all the different airspace, either the one coming from the open air and the one coming from the automatic XCTrack thing. Then there you can click on it and say disable for the day, for example. And then it will be disabled, and it will only take into account the one from your open air. Maps, so two types of maps. Let's say maps, but it's already maps. You have the terrain. Terrain is the ground altitude, okay? And the road maps, the road maps is with roads and many additional information that are quite useful. Terrain is very easy to download. You just click on the country and refresh, and then it will add all the terrain. For road maps, it's a little bit more tricky to add them, but usually, at least for those that have Hercule, it's pre-installed, and for the others, it's quite easy. You go to the map manager. One thing important to remember, when you are in the map manager, you need to click on, so you will get into an internet page, and then you need to click on the plus sign, and then install others. That's written actually in the instruction. So you go road maps, manage maps, and then here in the bottom there is a sentence that says if you want to add a map, you need to click here, and then click on Install Orders. So if I click on it, I'm reaching an internet page. I'm not sure if I'm connected. Yeah, connected. Yeah. So I'm reaching an internet page. And then here I will have a list of countries that I can download. So let's say I want to add, I don't know, anyone.
Not anyone here.
No, but it's already there. So, and basically you have all the list of countries, and you have a plus on the left. So if I want to download Bermuda, I click on the plus, and then when I click on the plus, I have different possibilities, and the last one is Install Orders. If I click on Install Orders, then everything will be done automatically. So it will download the map, uncompress it, select the right file, and everything will be done automatically. If you do not do it this way, then you need to download the zip file from the website, uncompress it, find the right one, put it at the right place, and so on. It's more complicated. The easiest is to really read the small sentence and do exactly the way it has been written. That was for the maps. So next one is page layouts. So page layouts allows you to manage the different page that you can have for XCTrack. Remember one thing is that the pages are linked to your navigation types. So if you enable them, it means that it's for every type of navigation. Navigation is back to takeoff, triangle, XA, XA route, or competition. By default, it's enabled. But you may say, this page I want only for competition tasks. Then you disable, I'm going to do it, I don't know if you will be able to see it. So I go to Preferences, Page Layout. I have my different page. Let's imagine I want to add one. So I click on the plus to add a new page. I have a possibility to add a predefined one or an empty one. I will create an empty one. And you see here in the bottom, I have enabled. Enable means for all 4 types of navigation. If I click on it, I can now decide which one of the 4 navigation tabs I want to use it. So it means that it will only be displayed depending on the navigation type I'm using. That's to create a new page. If, for example, you are internet connected, you want to use the web page widget, which is a pretty useful widget, web page widget, because you can have a web page within XCTrack. Then you create a new page, and then you will put the web page widget on it with the information that you want to get from internet. If you are not happy with it, you can click on it and put it in the bin. That means you just delete it. Or you can also copy it. So if I click on it and then put it on the copy page, then I copy it a second time because maybe I want the same page but maybe feet instead of meters and so on. So you can have a page that is already predefined but change a little bit. Basically, by default, I do not encourage to delete because then you cannot recover it. So it's better to disable things, disable page, so it will not be displayed. And if one day you want to come back, you can always re-enable it.
If it's disabled, is it then using any processor power?
No. So that's for page layouts. Any question on page layout?
How to share the page? How to share the page to the
Yeah, that's a feature that is linked to test and debug in the menu, in the preferences menu. You have test and debug. And in the test and debug, you can export your configuration. So you cannot export only one page. It's really, you can export your configuration and then import it into another device, but you cannot only do one page. Be very careful with this feature, because when you export everything, not only the page, but also the specific configuration. If you have a phone with 4 buttons, you have configured that the buttons are linked to this and this and this feature. When you export it to another phone, which will most probably have a different code for the buttons, it will not work anymore. So there are a certain number of specific features that are linked to the phone. So usually I discourage people to export and import, because then you are going to make some mess. And I often have some people that say, I have a problem with my RQ, and after a couple of questions, I understand that they've imported another configuration, and then everything is messed up. So usually it's better to start from something and to make the change. It's going sometimes faster.
If somebody uses the XC Manager app on the Air 3 to select, say, I want a white screen expert, and they have their configuration and then they change something, if they don't save their configuration and then they go back to the manager and choose something else and then come back, do they lose the changes they made?
Not sure. What you are talking about, the RQ Manager?
Yeah.
The other app?
Yeah, the other app that can set you up your default configuration.
It has a fixed configuration. So if you change something in XCTrack, but then you are not happy and you say, I should have gone back to how it was before, then you can use RQ Manager and reset to make it back as it was by default.
And if you haven't saved your configuration,
then you will lose it. Yeah.
Okay.
So you should first export,
yeah,
and then reset to have it back as default.
Yeah.
And then you can always import either one to decide what you want to do.
Yep. And the next question on the page layout, the automatic change to the thermaling screen compared to the map screen if you start turning, where do you do that adjustment?
So there is usually always an XC a thermal assistant page that is defined. And when you have the automatic actions, that's something that you will see afterwards, there is an automatic action that says when I start thermaling, I want to switch to the thermal assistant page. That's where you will do it. It's not in the page layout.
Yeah.
It's in the automatic layout.
The time frame that happens.
No.
That happens.
No. So, key bindings.
Page layout. Down the bottom of the page layout is this task box.
Yeah, that's the four type of navigations.
Or pass.
That's the back to takeoff, triangle, XA, or combination. You decide the page to be linked to specific navigation types.
There's other things like
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. So if you click on it, you will disable probably the navigation type for this page. So key bindings. Key bindings is pretty quick. It's the way you are going to use your buttons, your keys. The way you configure it's pretty easy. You go to the key bindings, the feature you want, like switch page left, for example. Now it is waiting for me to do something. I do long click on the plus. Now it's linked to long click plus means switch page left. So that's pretty easy. And for each button, you have short and long click. So there isn't many things to say about that. Automatic action, that's where you will decide your takeoff speed and your landing detection. So if you are not happy because you have put a takeoff speed too quick, too slow, let's say, and it's always taking off while you have not taken off, you can increase the takeoff speed there. And you could also, if you are doing I can fly, you could disable the landing detection so that you have the whole track. Even if you land and if you start walking, if you have put the landing detection to off, then you will keep the track for long. If you are doing soaring, and sometimes, very often, you are quite at the same place, flying in front of the wind, then it will detect the landing. You can put it on manual, and then it will detect kind of landing, but ask you for confirmation. So these are the three types of landing detection: off, automatic, or manual. So then you can keep having your track and keep flying if you are in the manual mode. Connection and sensors. Why did I put it there? Because it's important to know that it's where basically for those that use RQ 7.3 with the FLAM and FANET, that's where you will activate the fact that you want to use the FLAM and FANET module. So in this device, there is a FLAM and FANET module here, but you need to activate it in order to use it, so that it will send the information like about your position, your flight altitude, your direction, and so on, to all the people around. and you can see the people from that module. So I'm not sure if you are familiar with Flarm and Fanet. That's two different things. So basically, there are, let's say, three things to understand: live tracking, Fanet, and Flarm. These are three different things. So live tracking we have already discussed. That's based on internet network. You share your position to others. You see the position of others on your map. That's pretty convenient if you fly with other people. As long as there are other people flying, you can flag them in the live tracking menu, and then you will see the whole track on the XCTrack map. And it's pretty convenient to follow each other when you do not see them. You can see on the map, it's pretty easy. So that's live tracking. That includes messaging. But you need internet for that. You need to get a connection with internet. Then you have the Fanet. Fanet is basically a live tracking without the need of internet. It's based on a radio module, so it works only when you are quite close. But there is still a replication mechanism, so that if other people receive Fanet, then they can also send the information from the other people around to the others, even if they are not directly reachable with each other. I'm not sure if I make me understand.
Well, that works on airplane mode, doesn't it?
On airplane?
On airplane mode. If you have your phone on airplane mode. I was flying in New Zealand recently and I could see the sailplanes.
Yeah, so sailplane is mainly Flarm. It's not Fanet. They do not use Fanet.
Flarm.
So Fanet is live tracking without the need of internet, is to see people, to be seen by people around, but the gliders usually, the sailplane usually do not use Fanet. What they use is Flarm. So Flarm is flight alarm. Basically, it's the same radio module, but it's a different protocol, so it sends also your information about your position, your speed, and so on. But the main goal there is not to have live tracking. The main goal is to be seen by sailplane, so that if you may risk a collision, then they will see you, they will have a warning, say, hey, be careful, there is a risk of collision, and then they will drive somewhere else. It's like a radio, let's say 15, 20 kilometers, something like that. 15, 20, it's like radio. As long as you have nothing in front, then it can be quite hard. But if you have a mountain, then you will not see it.
I missed the question, but does the airplane Flarm works in Australia?
Yes. Actually, not the first version. So the first version we have produced, started last year, it was only Flarm for Europe. Now the new version has another module, but then it works on every frequency.
How do you identify the versions? Which version? How do you identify the version that has it?
Based on the date when you have purchased it. It's only very recent when we have been able to sell the new version. So
Is that the new version, the one with the arrow on the side?
yes, both have the same area. So when you look at them, it's the same. But with V2, it's already Flarm and Fanet, both for all frequencies with V2. Yeah, another thing about sensors is that now you can also configure XCTrack to use different external sensors. So if you are using a XCTracer, for example, and you want to get information from the XCTracer to provide it to XCTrack, you don't want to use the internal pressure sensor, then you activate that into the external sensor, Bluetooth, for example, and then it will grab the information from the sensor. Be careful if you do competition, because as soon as you use an external source, then the IGC generated by XCTrack is not valid anymore for competition, because the IGC has to be built by the program that is directly using the pressure sensor. But of course, you can have the IGC from the XCTracer if you need an IGC that is valid. Okay? So that's connection and sensors. So just live tracking, well, I've just said it before, but I'll just repeat it because I really think it's a really nice feature. As soon as you are live tracking, you flag the pilot that you want to track in a certain way, and you will see therefore the track on the map, which can be quite convenient. You can really see where the terminal is on the map, and it's pretty convenient. If you are in the cloud, you can always see where your mate is, even if you don't see it directly. And of course, on the live page, on the XContest page, as soon as you have seen the person in the live tracking, you click a second time on the person, then you have more information, and you have a direct Google Map direction button. So for the retrieve, it's pretty convenient. You see the pilot, you click once, then you click a second time, and then you click on Google Map direction. It will open your Waze or your Google Map and send the retrieve to the pilot where it is. The fact, of course, that you can also flag it and see the altitude means that it's pretty convenient, because you know if he has landed or not. As long as he has not landed, you will not necessarily go directly to where he is, but maybe only in the town close to it. Yeah, pretty convenient. When you first go to the live tracking menu, you will only see pilots that are 15 kilometers away. So here, for example, I just opened, I launched my other XCTrack before. I put the takeoff speed to 1, and I said disable landing. So this one is considered as flying, because you will not be considered as live track as long as you are not flying. So do not make a test on the takeoff, say, why do I not see the other person? That's because he's not flying. It will only appear that when he's flying. But you can simulate that by putting the automatic detection on no landing detection and takeoff speed 1. Then you are considered as flying, and then you can see the person. So I can also see Andrew, that is also flying around us. That's because here I didn't make any free refresh. So that's the 15 kilometers pilots around me. Now if I refresh, to do refresh, I just swipe down. Now I will see all the pilots, not only the ones that are 15 kilometers away. Then I can see many pilots that are currently live tracking. And if I want to make a problem to this pilot, I can click on it, click on a message, and send a message, even if it's in Japan. But he will know who it is. So it's not really a good idea to do it. So that's live tracking. Yeah, the message, yeah, I didn't take a right screenshot. So when you send a message, you will see the message. On Hercule, the way it's configured is that you have a message for 30 seconds in the bottom, and then you have the other page here that will contain all the messages, the history of the messages. So it's pretty convenient to send some quick messages. Just click on the pilot, click on the predefined message, and send, and then the message will be sent. IGC replay. When you do a replay of the IGC, you can change the position of the pilot in the track. If you directly want to see something very special at a certain moment, or you can replay speed. You can increase the replay speed, and then you will replay the full flight quickly. How to create a route or a task? There are different ways to add a task, to add a route. So the easy way, when somebody else has already made a task, you can generate either a QR code, or you can generate a cloud, small, how do they call that? No, that's let me check. Yeah, just download from cloud or upload to cloud. So if you have a task, you upload to cloud, if you have an internet connection, and there will be a 4-character code, like PAPI, P-A-P-Y, and then everyone that can do download from cloud and put PAPI, they will have the task. It's a very convenient feature. It's quite recent, because that's something that where you do not need the person to be just close to you. QR code is nice when you are close to each other, so that you can scan the QR code. But with the cloud, it's even more quicker. Just one that is doing upload to cloud. You have the code, And even on the radio, if you have forgotten to put your task, you are flying, you could also get your task with the cloud. So it's pretty convenient. So QR code, cloud sharing, or you can create the task either by selecting each weapon one after the other, but you can also do it on the map. So if you are creating a task, not a competition task, but you want to make your own task, you just go toggle map panning, click where you want to turn around, and then add the weapon to a route. And you can do that on the several points that you want to turn, and then you create your route. So it's pretty easy to do. There is also some web tool that also allows you to do that. So one that is called Friendly Air Tool that I have developed with a guy in Belgium. And on that tool, you just click where you want to put your turn point. So you create your routes on a web page. So it's very convenient when you have a computer. And then the last button is to create a QR code. So it displays the QR code, and then you just scan it, and you have it in your device. So it's also very convenient to create a route. Web page, click, QR code, scan, and that's it. If you're not doing it on the device itself.